Hey, everybody. I hope you're getting ready for a fabulous Thanksgiving, a great holiday weekend. We wish you well. It is always great to be able to talk with Sean Salisbury on Wednesdays. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, bud. How are you, man? Happy
I, I'm,
Thanksgiving to you.
I say seem to, before we talk about football and what's going on in the world of sports, I've always enjoyed your words of wisdom. They've always resonated with me, and I think with so many other people. You've been through so much and you've always persevered. I'm just curious as we approach Thanksgiving. What's the thing that you're most thankful for over the last 15 years? The one thing that you've learned more than anything else?
Forgiveness, which I think compassion. I don't want to go through a litany of the hell. I've learned that even at my age, there's still a lot of growth in being a good person. I've learned how to be try not to beat myself up because I was my own worst enemy at times, and at times still am. And I've learned that no matter what, Grant, without going into too much detail, that my family, my friends, my kids, that group that you have, we all think about big groups, but those close ones, don't do anything to screw that up, man.
Yeah.
The kids, I mean, because when it's all said and done, and a great, I mean, just the thought process is if you knew how quickly people forgot about you when you died,
Yeah.
you wouldn't give them a whole lot. The naysayer, you wouldn't give
Yep.
them a whole lot of thought while you're alive. So, and the truth is, and I think the most of all, which kind of goes hand in hand to bring it all together. We everybody goes through it. Listen, my ebbs and flows are no different than anybody else's. You've been through it.
Yep.
I also know that while you're going through rock bottom, any of us, that once you get to the other side, that the greatest learning and growth you'll ever have is rock bottom. It
Yep.
just is. If you're willing to if you can withstand that. But just for me, just the to know that sometimes when I think about my family and my kids, we get caught up in the everyday joy to kind of slow it down, man. And over all these years, this is what I was going to say, is immersing myself into serving others. I can do a far better job of it. I'm not good enough at it, but I know that when I'm bitching and complaining, which I did earlier this morning, which I did yesterday, that when I know Thanksgiving kind of hits for all of us, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, man, be thankful for what you got. Tomorrow we'll bitch about something again, but immersing myself into serving others. And when I
Yeah.
say, whether it's
I know what you mean.
the little, even if it's a little thing, to them it may be a big thing. Whoever needs it, that generally people are pretty good people, but I'm not willing to sacrifice close friends and family and my
Yep.
kids for a job or anymore. I'm working to live, not the other way around. So
You said something to
immerse
me.
myself in that service. Yeah.
I've listened to a lot of things that you've said in the past, whether it's between us or on social media. I've seen the work that you've done in Houston. You talked for a long time about your experience of meeting Russell, but you said something to me that has always resonated with me more than anything else. You said, you know what? When I was rock bottom, the thing that got me through it the most was doing good things for other people. It made my heart feel good. It made me feel good, even though I didn't feel good. But if I could change someone's life, if I could do something for somebody, if I could make their day better, their life better, that's what kept me going. And I'll never forget that because you were so freaking spot on.
Well, and Grant, thank you. And hell, you've
Yeah.
been through who
Yep.
and anybody who's watching this or viewing it, has whatever your rock bottom is, who's
Yep.
ever listening, whatever that is, but it'll hold true. That's going to withstand and sustain the test of time for me, because it takes away from your issues. And then when you hang around somebody who starts to get into their story, it's like, damn, I thought mine was, you really do. So
You're exactly right.
that
Yep.
part of the story in life, things change with time.
Amen.
And yeah, but the one thing that will never change is the best way to get through hell, where they say keep on going when you're going through that, is to find somebody else who's going through hell and help them through it. And
Amen.
somehow, some way, those blessings come your way. And I can tell that they do. And I'll say one last thing. People hear it, maybe hear it different, but no risk, no story. You see that on my social media, on one of my headers there, is take the chance, man. Take the chance. Because I to this day, I regret the things I didn't take a chance on or do more than the things that I screwed up. So take the chance and immerse yourself in those. And it's the hardest thing in the world to do when
Yep.
you're feeling sorry for yourself, saying, woe is me. And it may be worthy of you feeling sorry for yourself because you're getting beat up, mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever it is. But I found that when I was in my rock bottom, I didn't know if I was ever going to get out of it. And I'm literally, when I say don't know if I was ever going to get out of it, I'm not talking about just that feeling. I'm talking about literally, do I want to do this anymore?
Yeah.
I ain't talking about work. I'm talking about life. And when you immerse yourself into somebody else, your problems kind of go away. And then when you get back at it, and I do know this, one last thing, the comeback is better than the original.
Amen.
Why? Because most of the time we don't realize how good we had it until we get kicked in the teeth. And then when we do the comeback, it's like, yeah. Now that is that I feel much better about it. And I know I've never, ever regretted serving others. I've definitely regretted, doing stuff that I want to do and leaving others, forgetting to do the things that matter. And you can take that with you forever. And hopefully there's a seat next to the good Lord 30 or 40 years from now if somebody wants to put up with me that long. But I live until I'm 102, so you're screwed, brother. You're gonna have to deal with me. So yeah, and it's hard to do. But if you're going through it, text me or hit me on my inbox, because I can walk you through that. When you're going through it, man, keep moving and grab somebody else who's going through it with you. Immerse yourself into them, and I assure you, when you come out the better side, the comeback's always better. And I couldn't be happier than I am now, after career-wise, everything, after plenty of screw-ups in my life.
Before we go on, I just want to share this for the folks that don't remember, but the day you were on my podcast a couple of years ago, and you were talking about Russell and your experience on that Christmas morning, it was shortly thereafter that I got a long message, and I forwarded it to you, from an individual that was listening to that, and they had basically said they had no hope. They were in despair. They had separated from their family. They were going through the same thing that Russell was. And after listening to your story, it gave this individual hope and a new perspective on things. And he was so grateful that we had that conversation. So, you never know, when you talk about your pain and what you may be going through, you never know how that affects somebody that you don't know, you're never going to meet, that happens to be listening to your story. And they're like, wow, the same thing happened to me. Ryan Anderson, former NBA player.
Oh, yeah.
When his fiance committed suicide, she was a famous person. She had been on The Bachelorette. And Ryan came on my show about 90 minutes before the game in Sacramento, and we had the most amazing conversation about suicide prevention, about his experience. And I kid you not, about an hour later, I'm getting ready to do my rehearsal for our open, and an individual comes up to me and he has tears in his eyes. And I'm like, are you okay? And he said, I just had to come find you. He said, I just listened to you and Ryan. And he said, I came to the arena, and he goes, I got a ticket, and I wanted to come up to you and tell you that I have been going through the most difficult time of my life. This gentleman was probably 50, 55. And he said, I was contemplating ending my life, and I still am. But he said, after listening to that conversation, I wanted to come down and I wanted to just see if there's any way I could meet Ryan. And I kid you not, Ryan was on the court warming up, and I know Ryan well enough. And I walked up to Ryan. I said, hey, can you just spend 1 minute? And he went up to the guy, gave him a hug, and talked to him. And I firmly believe in my life that conversation that day with Ryan Anderson saved that man's life. I really do.
I don't doubt it at all. And that guy will never forget it. People will go on with their life, but the person that you gave hope to doesn't forget it. And you don't know if it's one or if it's 1,000. And I think in Ryan's case, see, sometimes when I share the story, and I gained a great perspective of homelessness and what that is for some. I mean, we're all one stupid decision away from sleeping under a bridge. We are. But when I hear stories like that, it tugs at my heartstrings, because you really never do know whose life you're saving. When people say, and sometimes you're embarrassed to share, because when I went through that, and then I went through and Russell, and he saved me more than I saved him, although he won't admit it. And people say, man, look at the difference you made. No, he helped me get another perspective that I needed. But if that story, the reason you share those stories is not for the pat on the back, Ryan Anderson. or you or me.
No.
It's because maybe somebody else not only needs to hear it, but then they can share it with somebody else,
Yeah.
and it becomes a domino effect. And you just don't know, so it's worth it. It's worth it. And those stories that tug at it's
Yeah.
so much more important. But it is to be able to immerse yourself in it. It is so hard to do because you think nobody cares. Somebody cares, and you're somebody. And coming out of it, there's a lot of people that need to hear stories like Ryan's or anybody else who's going
Amen.
through it, and God bless them. And it's I don't know what I've done well in my life. I've done some things, but the truth of the matter is, I think the greatest thing I've ever done was getting out of my own way and serving others, because along the way, I put it this way: no football throw I ever made or thing I ever said on TV about sports hits more home than the impact somebody made on me, or that hopefully I can help serve others. And real
Well
quick,
said.
to I think it's to Gammon Brown about who was my biggest mentor.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate. I've had in business and in work, I've had a lot of them that have impacted me, a ton of them, friends that still do, that really don't know they do at times, even though I try to tell them. But my mom and dad, and in particular my dad, I'll keep it simple. And I don't have either one of them now because they both passed away. But nobody said more by saying less than my dad. My dad lived it. He didn't have to talk it. And I fall short because my dad was the best father and husband that I've ever been around and that I've ever seen. And I think we all say that hopefully about our parents, but
Absolutely.
he ruined it for me in relationships, because when they met my dad, it was always, you hack, why can't you be like him? And he was the greatest example of strength. And my dad, if he had a couple $100 after his blue collar construction working paycheck at the end of the week, a couple $100 extra in his wallet, and we got to go out to dinner as a family, that was all my dad cared about, was being a husband and a father and seeing his kids succeed. So my biggest mentor is my dad, and I tears up because this was his favorite holiday, and I would do anything to sit with my father and my mother, but to talk to my dad. He'd be listening to this right now. He'd be so proud. He didn't miss anything. He loved it. He was so proud. Yeah. And I was so proud to have him as a father. But if it means anything, if you're going through, what hits me? It's stupid, but that Home Alone movie. Yes. Home Alone, when the guy is separated, he and his son aren't talking. And they go into church, the man that Macaulay Culkin's afraid of, right? And he goes and they get home and he sees them reconcile on that Christmas day. In the morning, the family shows up and the guy looks up into the window. I think if you have that chance, don't blow it with your kid or the kid with the dad. So whether you're 30 or 70, because the regrets you'll have if you don't are amazing. Immerse yourself in the service of others is the whole story, man.
Yep. And, as far as your father, I think what you're saying, actions speak louder than words. And you've talked so much about your dad with me over the years, and I've shared stories about my dad, but actions speak louder than words.
When you try to find something, somebody's just saying something bad about your pops, say somebody say something that you didn't like. No, first of all, they were always afraid of him because my dad was a silent, big old tough 82nd Airborne, but didn't say anything. He didn't have to. And if my mother was getting a little mouthy, my mother was a talker of the family. All my dad had to do was look at her, and she said, it might be time for me to zip it for a second, because that was my dad. He didn't have to say anything, and he was such a forgiving, simple man. Simple. Yeah. I'm a lot more complicated than him, but I love him and I miss him. So even if you're in a bad way, pick up the phone, a text, even if they don't return it. Tell them you love them, man. I was fortunate to be raised by great parents, and I got great siblings and family, and my kids are the best. So thank you.
I'll tell you a quick story. I'll tell you a quick story about my dad. We were playing the Knicks, and obviously every time I went to New York, my dad would come early to the game. I'd get him a press pass. We'd hang out on the court. We'd talk to Mike Breen, or before then Marv Albert. I would take him into the press room, and the Knicks were very cool about that. They took care of my dad, and my dad met all of the New York writers, and it was just a big thrill for him with us growing up in New York. But anyway, one year, I'm in New York, and I get a call from my dad. He said, I'm going to be a little bit late. I'm not going to be able to meet you before the game. And I didn't ask him why. I go, no problem. Whenever you get there, I'll see you. I figured it was a work-related thing. Well, my dad was the leader on Long Island of Men Against Domestic Violence.
Hmm.
And so my dad shows up to the game, and now it's literally like 20 minutes before the game. And I said, "Are you okay? Where were you?" And he said, "Yeah, I haven't told you this." He goes, "I visited a lady at the prison. I want to say it was Rikers Island or it was somewhere else." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "I found out about this lady. She's in prison because she killed her spouse because she was a repeated victim of domestic violence, and it was her way to get reprieve and safety, even though she's in prison." And I found out about her. I'll just say this because I always talk about my dad being a big civil rights activist and always doing something for minorities. She was a black woman, and my dad would go visit her once a month in prison. She didn't have any family, she didn't have anybody else. And my dad took it upon himself to go out to a stranger and talk to her because my dad was so passionate about men against domestic violence. And again, he wasn't about words, he was about actions. And those type of stories are like, wow, you're trying to make somebody's life better, even though they are in the worst possible situation.
And can do nothing for him.
That's exactly
Right.
right. And my dad would never want anything in return. And that's what's
Exactly.
the beauty of it.
Hey, you're
So
just Grant, great story. I mean, we could, the story we could, well, not sports. Who the hell cares about the
I
football
know.
weekend? Hearing that story about your father, and the first time I ever saw my dad cry, Grant. It was just he grew up. He was one of 9 kids. Just grew up in a family where his dad didn't need to tell him he loved him. He did, which I never missed a chance to tell my parents, my mom and dad, every day I love them. Right? We're playing. We just got done with UCLA, and it was my last year. I'd shredded my knee twice, and at the end of the season, I'd play. And Rodney Pete played against UCLA our last game. And Rodney's one of my closest buddies, and I love him, and he's a special guy. And
Yeah.
I didn't get to play the game. It was my goal. It was my last game my senior year, and Rodney started. My dad came in because he'd come to all the parents come to all the games, and we were in our little at the Coliseum. And my dad knew that it was gut wrenching because my college career was over, and he came in and sat in the little stall with me. And it's the first time I saw his eyes water and cry.
Wow.
We'd been through far just because he knew how the suffering of men not being able to play the last game because he hadn't played well.
Yeah.
They were moving on. Rodney was going to be the starter next year and the future Heisman guy. And it was my last, and he knew the gut wrenching feeling I had, and he didn't have to say anything. And that's the first time I saw my dad with tears, honest to God truth. And I was a senior in college.
Wow.
He just, and he hugged me and he said, "I love you." And it sent me into, I was reeling, and I still remembered. I don't even remember what the final score of the game was. We have great teammates, and I know Rodney played well, and he deserved it.
It didn't matter. Yeah.
I didn't care. And to this day, I don't know, but I know what my dad was wearing, what he said, and how it felt that day. So thank you. And thank you guys for the stories there.
It's great.
It matters to us, and it sure matters to me. So happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for letting me share.
Yeah. Sean, I would like you to share the experience of being what I think is one of the best rivalries in all of college football and USC and Notre Dame as we approach that game. You told me the story last week of Jerry Faust and how you almost ended up going to Notre Dame, but John Robinson convinced you to go to Southern Cal. And I've talked to your former teammates, the Greg Coettes and the Mike Lambs, and about playing in South Bend with the fans so close to your bench and the experience of walking down the steps and coming out of that tunnel. I know that USC UCLA is the biggest one there, but what was it like the week of the Notre Dame game?
You know what, Grant? I'll tell you, and I think I've shared this to you maybe years in the past. I don't know, but I'll just real quickly so I don't use up all your time I actually think the Notre Dame rivalry is bigger than the UCLA rivalry. Now, the UCLA rivalry in that local 12 miles apart, we go to high school with the same guys, they're your buddies, a lot of trash talking. Do you realize I can't ever remember being part of a Notre Dame SC trash talking? It was such a classy, my parents, when they traveled to South Bend, the Notre Dame fans treated them like gold as the starting quarterback for the other team, meaning me. They treat him like gold. My recruiting trip was fantastic. I love the rivalry. Ohio State, Michigan, hell, Army, Navy is a bigger rivalry just on the field. We know what those kids are doing to save lives and our country and give us the freedom. We can go through some of, the current rivalries like the Auburn, Alabama, but it was Michigan, Ohio State. It was Oklahoma, Nebraska, Greg Pruitt, Johnny Rogers when I was growing up. And to me, I still will put up, considering the number of players, the amazing games, the national titles, the Heisman trophies, the feeling that while it may not have be as significant now, Notre Dame wants to win this one because it's as huge for them. But
Right.
it saves jobs. If you're not having a good season and you lose to the two rivals, you probably lose your job. If you are having a bad season and you beat the two rivals, you may buy time. There's so many layers to this rivalry. I still think it's as good a classy and as deep a rivalry. When you look at 18 Heisman Trophy winners, I think, or 17, hundreds of All-Americans and NFL players and coach. I mean, Hall of Famers all over the place.
Unbelievable. It's incredible.
It's amazing. So I'll put it up against any rivalry. I'm talking about the history of all time, right, as a national rivalry. But I'm going to tell you what the week was like. Is first off, if you're not a Notre Dame fan, go watch a game in South Bend. It's like going to Fenway Park. You got to go.
Yep.
That day, the day before the game, it's snowing during our walkthrough in Notre Dame. And the tensions are rising because it's Notre Dame SC, and you can feel it. It's palpable, right? And Troy West, one of my dear friends on the team, is still to this day, love him. We laugh about it to this day. And I don't even know why we started it. We came in after practice. We were around the locker. And I don't know, you bump into one guy. It's hot, cold outside, so it's hot in the locker room, right? And you walk by that damn play like a champion today. You don't see it all. And we bumped into each other, and we got into a fist fight and had to be separated the day before game in the locker room. And, at 6'5", 230 old man, Troy was a strong safety. He's a stud,
Yeah.
And we love him. I mean, he was one of my favorite people in the world, still is, love him. But you can't it's hard to describe unless you're there. So we also are told that day, so it gets broken up, everything's fine. You hug when it's later on, in which we still laugh about it, is we said we're going to have a special guest the next day speak to us. Ted Tollner had said this. I think it was my junior year maybe. But John Robinson was there the first 2 years, said special guest. So we're thinking, well, is it Heisman Trophy? Who is it? Well, it's like college game day guest, right? But he's going to come speak to us. In comes Coach John McKay.
Wow.
The day our final speech before we go out on the field.
Wow.
And he says to us, and this is as close to verbatim as I can give you, because your eyes are big. It's Coach McKay and SC, right?
Yeah.
And he says, I just want you to know that no matter what you do in your college or professional careers, Super Bowl included, no matter who you play against or where you play it, you will never remember a game, remember the team you're playing, or remember where you were more than you will today. And that's SC Notre Dame in South Bend.
Wow.
And I'll be damned, to this day, I can tell you, I can see everything in the bookstore when we're waiting for the bus to take us back to the hotel after practice on Friday before the Saturday afternoon game. And the grass was, I mean, I can describe it to a T.
Yeah.
And Coach McKay was right. And God, I will never call him John, because I don't call head coach. That's rare. That's like a doctorate, It's
Right.
Coach McKay. And he is but he was dead. He was serious. He's always got a great sense of humor. He's serious. And he's right. To this day, you think Notre Dame, Southern Cal. I played in playoff games, win a Grey Cup, played 10 years. You play against UCLA. All those are big. Been NFL Player of the Week once, so I'll take it. All those things. And you know what? You played against your best friends. You played against other guys that were better than you that are Hall of Famers. You played with Hall of Famers. There is no game that sticks out to me more, and no rivalry and no moment than Coach McKay saying about Southern Cal and Notre Dame. And he's 100% correct for those of us. And I'm sure you'll get plenty of stories from Notre Dame saying the exact same thing.
On that note, I will wish you a very happy Thanksgiving, my friend. I appreciate you so much. I love chatting like this from time to time. It's just awesome. I have so much respect for you. I can't begin to tell you. And again, I just hope you have a fabulous day tomorrow and a great weekend, my friend.
Thank you. A lot of football. We could catch up on all the football and hoops and college hoops at NBA next week.
Yes.
And Grant, same to you. And times mine times 10. I hold you in, and when I say this, I mean it reverently, but I mean it seriously and emphatically, that I hold you in the highest regard, with the highest respect. And I know that that's a long line of people who feel the same way about you. I love being able to do this. You bring people into this show that care about you, and I'm, it's an honor to do it every week, and I sincerely mean that. And to answer your question, happy Thanksgiving to you, John. I am in. Let's see, that's BJ. I'm in 916. I'm in Houston, Katy, Texas, and Katie's playing in another playoff game in high school. What a shock! So that's where I'm at, and I'll see my kids in Austin, and going to throw down a big spread. And I'll give you the best recipe on the planet for cream corn next week after you guys eat yours, and tell you why jalapeno cream corn mine goes up against any Chef Boyardee out there. So that being said, I love you, man. Happy Thanksgiving.
I love you too.
This show means more to me than talking any sports. So thank you.
Thank you, buddy. You're the best. That's great stuff. Sean Salisbury. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, right? It does not get any better than that. I have just the utmost respect for him. I do a lot of interviews. I do a lot of shows, and I have for my whole life. And Sean is truly one of my favorite people to talk to in the world. And I mean that. And when we can have a 20 to 25 minute conversation like we just had, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's incredible. I don't have enough words, enough accolades when I talk about Sean Salisbury. The guy is just gold. He has a heart of gold. And I'm blessed to know him. I'm blessed to be able to talk to him. And I feel great that you are able to just sit back and hear his words of wisdom and his stories, because they're unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, so we do have a lot going on today. Coming up in about, well, let's see what time it is here. It's 3:27. So at the top of the hour, Jerry Reynolds, Ryan, and Sacktown will have our Kings Roundtable and basically the Kings pregame show as they take on Minnesota. Then at halftime, the three of us will talk about the first half. And then we'll have the postgame show with your phone calls. And hopefully we'll light the beam and get you ready for Thanksgiving. If you're not able to join us because you're off somewhere or you're running to the airport or you got to get in a car with family, have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you very much for supporting this channel, for supporting Ryan, for supporting me, and keeping us going and keeping us afloat. A lot of people do super chats. We're blessed by that. Gammon, thank you for your super chat donation on the show today, and others. We greatly appreciate it. It helps out more than you know. So for those of you that have done that, thank you. For those of you that just follow us every day and watch all of our programming, thank you. For those that call in, thank you. For those that, I get upset at because of your chat messages, thank you. You're awesome. And you're the main reason, actually, you are the only reason why I continue to do this. I really mean that. I do this show for you. I don't do it for me. You mean the world to me. I appreciate it. And spread the word today. I'm going to put this on my audio platform for the people that they want to listen to it while they're working out or what have you. It will be available on Spotify, Apple, my website, if you don't like that.com, or grantnapier.com. Also, I've got some great merch available at grantnapier.com, or if you don't like that.com. But spread the word about our conversation today. People can go back and watch it on YouTube as well, or on X. It's available. So thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll be back here at the top of the hour with Jerry Reynolds and Ryan and Sacktown. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.